We've been here before. I don't think I'm going to say anything that you don't already know, but this is where I believe we're supposed to be. But here's the deal. What we need is not more knowledge. God's people typically have a head full of knowledge. What we need to do is move that knowledge from just in our brain capacity, our memory, into our actual living spot. To where it's not just things we know, but things we do, things we live. Moving it from our knowledge base into our lives, we need to live this verse. We're going to use two verses today. They're actually companion verses, one in the Old Testament, one in the New Testament. One is unfamiliar and one is very familiar. In fact, you probably won't even need to turn to 1 Peter 5. But here we go in Psalm chapter number 55, verse number 22. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. And most of you will not even need to turn to 1 Peter 5:7. Quote it with me. Casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Title of this morning's message, The Care of Jesus Christ. The Care of Jesus Christ. Let's pray. Father, if we were brilliant, and we're not, we wouldn't understand these words. For this is spiritual truth that must be spiritually discerned, and your Spirit must teach us if we are to understand it. But Father, we want to do much more than understand today. This is not a suggestion, but a command. This is a how we are supposed to live kind of statement. And Father, quite simply, we want to live this. We just aren't smart enough, aren't something enough to do it. And we're asking that by your Spirit, you would move us along in the fulfillment of this verse in our lives. Teach us truth. Not because we deserve it, for we assuredly do not deserve it, but because the Lord Jesus purchased it for us. And for his honor and glory, we ask that it be implemented into our lives. And we ask it in his precious and holy name. Amen. The care of Jesus Christ. Before we look at how this ought to play out in our lives, our response to the actual living this truth, we want to consider, what does Jesus Christ's care for us actually look like? What does his care for us actually look like? Now, there's a lot that should be said and could be said. Well, let's give it a general overview here. God, I think there are 7 points on this. We'll run through them very quickly here, I believe. Number one, his care for us is not of recent origin. His care for us is not of recent origin. It means it didn't just start yesterday, okay? If you had a list, okay, if everybody here had a piece of paper and you wrote down a list of the things and the people that you actually care about, okay, and you made a list of the things that you care about, you could, on that list, right beside it, put a date when you started caring for it. Right? For people, it might be the day that you met them or shortly thereafter. If it's your job, some people love their jobs, and so it might be the day that you either started the job or got a promotion. If it's a sport or a recreation or a hobby, it's the day that you picked that hobby up and now you care for it. You didn't care for it before, but now you care for it. If it is your house, it's the day that you moved in. If it's, you understand, you could write down almost everything you care for. You could write down the date when you started caring for that particular thing. Now, using that same thought process, put your name down there and put, when did God start caring for you? When did he start caring for you? Now, the fact of the matter is we don't have enough knowledge to actually accurately answer that question. But we do have a few ideas that get us at least into the ballpark. John 3:16 tells us that the reason God sent his son is why? He loved us, okay? So he cared for us, that's why he sent his son. When was Christ determined to be sent for us? From the foundations of the earth. So we know from the foundations of the earth Christ was going to be sent, and the reason he was sent is because God loved us. So we know that bare minimum, at least when the earth was put here, when that happened, he already loved us. Yes. Now we don't understand completely all the before that. It may have been long, we don't know. But we do know that at least from when the plans got put in place, God already loved you. His love, his care for us is not of recent origin. He just didn't start it yesterday or when you were born. He cared for you so far before. You can't even think that far back. From the foundations of the earth, he cared for you. Number 2, his care for us is individual. He cares for us individually. He cares for us individually. Have you ever had care given to you that you found out later on you thought it was specific, and pretty soon you found out it was actually generic? Do you understand what I mean by that? You got care showed to you and you thought, they really care, and then you found out it was just a generic thing. Let me give you the examples, okay, so they'll get you on the track here. You get a bonus at work. You've never got a bonus at work before. It shows up in your paycheck and you're like, yes, they are finally recognizing my efforts in this company. You're finally recognizing the fact that I've given 110%. They're finally recognizing my sacrifice for this business. And then you find out everybody in the whole company got the same bonus. You thought it was individual, but it was actually generic. Do you understand? You get a piece of mail from a business that you frequent, and it says, you are a special customer. And because you are a special customer, you get this amazing discount. And you're like, I do frequent that place a lot, and they're finally recognizing the fact that I spend quite a bit of money there. And you flip it over, and it's addressed to occupant. And you realize everybody on the planet got one. They got the special deal. Do you understand? Sometimes this care, let me give you a little more personal thing. I didn't know Dad was going to be here. Nothing against Dad, but this is how life works. How do you preface that? Let me dig myself out of that hole. Okay. I was born on Dad's birthday. Okay? Now, when we were at another church, I was just a little boy, and the church would celebrate Dad's birthday. I'd say, have this big party for Dad's birthday. And they would always say, oh, it's Scott's birthday too. Come up and have a birthday with Scott. It's Scott's birthday. And so would they, happy birthday to you. No, they have pictures of me. Oh, I am just so bright-eyed in wonder of them all celebrating my birthday. Until I got to be old enough to realize they weren't celebrating my birthday. I was just a tack on. Do you understand what I mean? It was Dad's birthday they were celebrating, and I just happened to be there with the same birthday, so they tacked me on. Do you understand what I'm saying? Much of our life is this way. We feel like it's just actually generic. I'm just being tacked on. Is this what God's care for you is? Are you just tacked on? He cares for the whole world and you're just kind of tacked in. He started the whole situation and you're just kind of tacked on to it. That is not God's care for you. It is God's individual care for you that is so incredibly amazing. From day one, God has been working, caring for you individually. This is why that if I had everybody stand up here this morning and give testimony of what God has done in your life, it would all be entirely different. Every single person here would have an entirely different testimony than everybody else. Why? It's not some whole mass of people coming to the Lord in one large lump. It is not some cookie cutter chop, chop, chop. You ever watch those machines make things? It's just one right after the other, boom, boom, boom. This is not how God has operated with us. Every single person here has been brought to him by a whole separate plan. It has been individual, and all of the time, each one of us has been fighting that plan, undermining that plan, working against that plan. Sometimes we knew it, sometimes we didn't, but we were all fighting against this plan, and what is God doing? His care is slowly bringing us to himself. And so if we each stood up and gave our testimony, guess what? All of us would have an individual testimony of God's care in our lives, because he doesn't look at us as some massive group. His care is individual for each one of us. His care is not of recent origin, it's individual. His care is not a passing fad. His care is not a passing fad. When I watch TV at home, it's all done on DVDs, things that are recorded. We do not have any antennas or any cables or any of that coming into our house or subscriptions of any of that kind of stuff. And what that does for me is one wonderful thing. No commercials. You do not realize the benefit, the blessing of no commercials until, like we were just on vacation. We go, and every place when you go on vacation, their TV has some of this. And you are once again introduced to commercials. Now, it would be all well and good if the commercials were actually good, or if they didn't play these same commercials over and over and over again. It's the same commercials in the same order about things you don't even want to hear about. And the problem we had was the TV at this place. I'm a channel surfer, when it comes to commercials. I go off to, try to find something else, flip back and forth. But this TV, if you change channels at all, 2 minutes later, the TV shut off and had to restart itself, and it'd take like a minute to restart. And so if you did it, you had to miss your show, whatever you were watching. So you just had to let it sit there and run. Do you know how many starving dogs I have seen last week? I was so irritated with seeing these starving dogs. Everybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. If you didn't, you... Now, I got irritated enough that I started doing some research. The $19 a month intrigued me. And so I started figuring out, why is it $19 a month? Because every one of you watch all of the shows that are, all of these commercials that are trying to get you to do this are trying to get you to $19 a month. And I came up with my own idea, and then I got on the internet to check out if there was a reality to this. And it is, the reason they do $19 a month, because people will give, when they see the starving dog, they'll get sad, and so they give them money. And they're willing to give more money than that. But if they do that, if they give more money than that, then every time they see that commercial, they're done. I've already done that. So they won't give again. If they get them to sign up monthly and the amount is too much, when money gets tight, they'll say, that's just too much money, so I'm going to cancel. So they figured out the exact amount of money where people will say, well, it's not even $20. It's not worth trying. It'd take me longer to cancel than it will be. And so they get these perpetual givers. Do you understand? Now, what does that tell you? What it tells you is the care for these dogs that the people are giving is a fad. They're not willing, every time they think about dogs, these starving dogs, to call them up and give more money. They're only going to do it one time while they're thinking about it. And the only way you can keep them giving is if you do it in such a way that they forget about it. Because it is a passing fad. You felt bad at the time, and you see all these pictures of these little poor dogs, and so you just, no, I'm not speaking against poor dogs, yes, you understand. I am speaking against these commercials, and that's not the point of the message, but what I'm trying to get you to understand is this is not how God is. God didn't one day see you and, oh, they're so poor, they're so wretched, and so let me help them. And now he just kind of got you on auto pay. That's as much concern as he's got for you. Auto bless, I guess it would be. Okay. They only cost me $19 a month. I'll just keep blessing them. This is not how it works. You are not some passing fad with God. He actually cares about you. In fact, so caring that if one hair of your head fell off, he knows it. That's how much he cares about you. He's not got you on some kind of plan. He is thinking about you specifically. He cares for you. And you're not some passing fad that he's just going to somehow slip off his radar, and it just happened to come on because he was confronted with your need at one moment. He cares for you. His care is not of recent origin. His care is individual. It's not a passing fancy. Number 4, his care does not have ulterior motives. His care does not have ulterior motives. I hate to keep going with this, but this irritated me so bad watching all those commercials that when I got on, I found some interesting facts about this whole dog thing. Did you know the CEO of that company makes over $1 million a year? $1 million a year. And do you also know that none of that is local? The money that you give, there's no connection with any of the local, you're trying to, the dog pounds and so forth, the animal places local. None of that money goes to there. There's no connection, anything local. So all that money is going out there. Nobody actually really knows how it's all. I was looking through that. It's really kind of difficult to see how they're spending that money. But the guy in charge makes $1 million a year. Now, doesn't that seem a little ulterior motive to you? If he was really concerned about those dogs, it costs we need 3,000 donors immediately at $19 a month. You know why? Because that's what it'll basically take to pay his salary. Unbelievable. If he was really concerned about the dogs, he would take a normal salary like the rest of the people who are given $19 a month and put $900,000 more toward the poor dogs. Right? Right. But what it sounds like is Judas Iscariot. Remember Judas Iscariot? What's that alabaster box being broken there for? You know what could have happened with that alabaster box? We could have sold that and given it to the poor. And what does this Bible say about that? Did he care about the poor? He was the treasurer, and he could get his grubby little hands on that money if they could get it into the purse. Is this what you think about God? That God has some kind of ulterior motive? He's pouring out this care, but actually he doesn't care because he's getting a really good deal out of this. What is God actually getting out of this relationship? What is he actually benefiting from his care? If his care was based on your gratitude, the gratitude that he gets from you, well, he might as well quit. If his care is based on the recognition that we give him, he might as well forget about it. If it's based on the work that he gets out of us toward his kingdom, he's making a really lousy investment. If his care is based on the love that we show him, he is getting ridiculously shortchanged. There is no huge benefit to God for his care. He has no ulterior motive. He cares because that's the kind of God that he is. He is a good and gentle and kind God, and he needs nothing himself. But he cares because it's in his nature to do so. the care of Jesus Christ. It's not of recent origin. It's individual. It is not a passing fancy. It doesn't have ulterior motives. And number 5, his care is not limited in scope. His care is not limited in its scope. Carol has this little minor doctor's thing, the medical procedure she needs to have done. So she made an appointment, and she went. And when she went, they said, oh, we don't do that here. You got to go someplace else. So they made an appointment for her to go someplace else. So she went this week to go someplace else, and the lady says, yes, we do that here, but I don't do that. So I'll have to come back. It's less than a 30-minute total appointment, okay, to get this thing done. Now we're on appointment number 3, and we've got over 4 hours. She's got over 4 hours of travel just to do this. Do you understand? It's like, wait a second. You don't do this here. Oh, we don't do this now. We don't. Where does God have this kind of thought process? What kind of care does God give? If Carol was there and she said, oh, by the way, she's talking to the nurse, by the way, my car was missing when I was coming here. What will they say about that? We don't do that here. If she's at the mechanic and says, hey, my car's missing, but also I'm having trouble with my income tax, he say, we don't do that here. And if you're at the tax man and you say, can you do an addition on my house? I don't do the additions on your house. You have people who, look, the doctor may care about your body and your health, but he doesn't care 2 hoots about your income taxes. And your tax man may care about your income filing 1040A, but he doesn't care 2 hoots about the roof leak. Do you see? Because the care is limited in scope. And they don't do that there. Now let me ask you this. When was the last time that you went to God and said, I have this need, and he said, we don't do that here? Never. What can you mention that God doesn't care about? What can you bring to him that he is not there to help and do exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think? He cares for your family. He cares for your health. He cares for your job. He cares for your finances. He cares about your problems. He cares about your future. He cares about your time and your emotions and your heartaches. You can't find anything he doesn't care about. When that single hair falls off your head, you don't care about that, but he sure does. He knows what's happening in your life and cares about every single piece. It is the care of Jesus Christ. It's not of recent origin. It's individual. It's not a passing fancy. It's not with ulterior motives, and it's not limited in its scope. Number 6, it is not limited in its quality. It is not limited in its quality. I hope that you do not have this in your life, but let me show it to you and we'll see if you do. In my life, when I look back on it, what happens is when I look back on it, there are people that I cared about, things that I cared about, but the quality of the care that I gave just wasn't up to snuff. Do you know what I mean by that? It just wasn't there. I meant to do the right thing. I meant to be a help to them. I meant to give quality care, and it just didn't work out that way. And if I think about it too much, my face will start turning red because you look back, and these were people you really cared about, and you just blew it. And so when you look over your shoulder into the past, it's like, oh, I did that. Yes, I did that. Well, I didn't mean to do that, but that's what I did. Anybody else here have that? I guess failure is a common thing amongst men and mankind. Boy, I meant to do the right thing. I really cared about those people. I cared about that situation. But boy, the standard, the care, the work that I did was just below quality. I think probably everybody here, whether you've thought about it or not, actually has that in your life. But let me ask you this. When was the last time God said that? I really cared about those people, but man, the quality of my work in that was just below par. God never had that thought. Not because he just, whatever I do is all fine with me, because his standard is perfection. Do you realize perfection is his minimum standard? How's that? His perfection is his minimum standard. He will not fall below his minimum standard, which is perfection. And so single thing he has ever done in anybody's life has always been perfect completely. The quality of the care that he gives is perfect. And he has no regrets because there's nothing to regret. He has always done exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ask or think. The quality of his work is perfect. The quality of his care we second guess it, we do all these kind of things and questioning of it, but it's always, every time, been perfect. That's the kind of quality care you get from God. The care of Jesus Christ is not of recent origin. It is individual. It's not a passing fancy. It's not done with ulterior motives. It's not limited in its scope. And it is of perfect quality. Number 7, his care is without end. His care is without end. Carol and I were having a discussion over the last couple of weeks. Our situation is, I think, semi-unique because our lives are so intertwined that we are together almost all of the time, actually. That's good for me, not so good for her, but that's all right. Literally, we work at the same place. We have mostly the same interests. We go the same places. We do the same things. I was trying to calculate, but my guess is we are either together or within very close proximity 20 out of 24 hours a day. That's how much time we spend together. I rejoice in that. It's a really great life. And our lives are super intertwined together. But not to be all whatever you would call this, but the older you get, you start to realize that one of these days that's going to come to an end. You understand? They call it the passing of the river, and one of us will pass that river, and that care that we give each other, that time we spend together, will be over. And one will be left without that care. Several in this room have already experienced that in your life. That care that you had, the lives intertwined, are now separated. But you know, with God, that's not part of the equation. The care that Jesus Christ gives doesn't end. It doesn't come to a time where, we can't be together anymore. I've got to leave you. He'll never leave us or forsake us. And you know what? I've got it written down here. 1 Corinthians 2:9 says, you ain't seen nothing yet. You think the care is good now? You ain't seen nothing yet. I haven't seen what I've got prepared for you when you're actually with me. This care never ends. It is quality, complete care that has no ending. This is the care of Jesus Christ. And the care that you'll have for all eternity is incomprehensible. Now, let me be clear. This is not a completely true statement. There is a possible parting of the ways. God will not force himself on anyone. You know what basically he does? He gives us this time on planet Earth to experience his care. You may deny it, you may reject it, you may fight against it, but he gives us this time on earth to experience the care that he gives. Yes. But he does not force this on you forever. You have a choice. You can choose, I like this care. And I'll keep going with this care. You can choose. He's made a way through Jesus Christ that we can spend eternity with him. He has made that available through Christ. But you have the choice to say, you know what? I do not want this care forever. You can make that choice. You can choose for that care to cease to exist in your life. You cannot choose to cease to exist. Your life is linked with God's, and until God ceases to exist, you will not cease to exist. But you can choose to have his care for you cease for any experience on your part. At death, that choice is permanent. It's done in a place called hell. And you can live forever without the care that you have experienced up to this point in your life and will till you die. You can choose to be without that. This is a serious mistake, by the way, to make that choice. You do not understand the care that God has given and what it would mean to be without that for eternity. You cannot truly appreciate that. The way is made in Jesus Christ, and when you accept him, that care never ends. But you have the choice, you have the right to choose for that care to cease forever for you. If you make that choice to have it cease, at death, God's care as you know it will cease. Now, we've worked through that. I believe that my original premise is correct. I don't think I've told you anything that you didn't already know, most of you. Almost everybody here already knows everything that I said. You may not have thought about it in quite that way, but I didn't tell you anything new, that God cares for you deeply. So basically what we've done with this first 30 minutes here is basically nothing. If it just stays there, you already knew that, and so what have we done? So what we need to do is in the next 5 or 6 minutes, as fast as I can run this, move it from, yes, it's here, to this is how I live. So let's run this as hard as we can. This is how what needs to happen from this truth. Number one, let me take a step back. Part of the truth that I came across is first in Psalm 4:2. It says that the men, I'll misquote it here, men have taken his glory and made his glory into shame. They've made his glory into shame. Now, there's a lot we could talk about in that, but let's just put it in this particular item. The glory, the care of Jesus Christ, is not glorious? The fact that he cares so deeply and so immensely and for so long and does so much, it is unbelievable. I pray it all the time, but it's because it's true. Never have children been so well cared for as God's children. It is amazing attribute of God, his care for us. It's glory to him to have treated his children so well. But how do we act? How do we bring shame on that? Well, how do we act? God's people primarily act like the Irish used to say, poor, wretched orphan veterans. Little poor orphan children. That's how we act. Like, oh, life is so difficult. And oh, what are we going to do? And we worry and we fret and we stew like we plan like there is no plan already. There is a plan, but we act like there's no plan. We second guess every single thing that God does. We second guess it. We act like we have been totally abandoned as children. And you know what we do? We take his glory, and as far as the world is concerned, we bring it to shame. Like, wow, if that's the best God can do for his children, why would I want to be one? We bring his glory into shame. And this has got to stop. We are well cared for children, and our lives should show it. So how do we get there? Let me give you 3 quick things. Number 1, start rejoicing. start rejoicing. The Old Testament word for this is praise. Why do you think David was a man after God's own heart? Because when you read through the Psalms, the guy is just overwhelmed with God and the things that he does. He rejoices in his God all of the time. We have got to come back to this. I've been harping on this for 12 years now. I'm going to keep harping on it like a broken record. But God's people have got to come back to the place where we are praising him. Why do you think we start every Wednesday night? We spend 15 or 20 minutes just sitting around talking about what God has done. Why do I start every Sunday school class I teach with 10 minutes of telling us, what did God do in your life? Because God's people have got to come back to the fact that they understand that God is at work in their life. We have got to quit ignoring this fact. And not in a corporate setting, but in the personal privacy of your own life. You have got to start doing this. You will never get beyond anything. You will never be where you need to be until you start doing this. Recognizing the fact that God is at work in your life. Recognizing what he has already been doing. Absolutely. Rejoice in your God. I've started this new prayer thing. I might teach it one of these days. But I've done things like this for probably 20 years now, but the first 25% of my prayer time is spent doing nothing but praising God for who he is and what he's doing. On Mondays, my whole time, the entire time that I pray, 100% of the time is spent strictly praising God in all the areas of my life for what he's doing. It is what we have got to come back to. God is at work, he's been caring for us, and we have got to recognize this fact. To ignore it is to doom ourselves to a life that is not pleasing to him. Got to recognize that. Number 2, we need to trust. Do you realize trust is a choice? Every moment of the day you are confronted with either I'm going to trust what God said or I'm not. It's a choice all day long. The reason that it's not reasonable to trust something that you're unfamiliar with or that is untrustworthy. This is why we have to start with rejoicing. When we start with rejoicing, we understand, boy, God's at work. He knows what he's doing. And when you understand that, then trusting is legit. I can trust because he has always been faithful. I've been just rehearsing that, and now I can trust him. God loves to be trusted. And we must start choosing to trust. It doesn't matter what my emotions feel like. It does not matter what the circumstances think. It doesn't matter what my brain is telling me about this. This is what God said. That's the way it is, and I choose to trust him versus all this other junk. Absolutely. I will not lean on my own understanding. I will trust exactly what he said. That's the way that it is. It is a choice. Don't give yourself any excuse for not taking that choice. You made the choice to not trust him. You make the choice not to trust him. It's right there. He said it, and it's a choice that we make. Quit giving yourself an excuse. You have no excuse to doubt God. He doesn't give you the opportunity, ability, or the excuse to do so. His is always definitive. You should not be doing that. So trust. Rejoice, trust, and number 3, cast all your care upon him. Cast all your care upon him. Rejoice in him, then begin trusting him, and then start casting all your care upon him. It's an old illustration. There was a man, he's got this big heavy burden on his back. He's walking down the road. A man comes by in a cart. The man in the cart says, "Hey, can I give you a ride?" And the guy on the burden says, "Oh, that'd be great. Let me hop up here in the seat." And the man hops up in the seat. He's got the burden on his back. And the man says, "Just throw your burden in the back of the truck here, the back of the wagon." And the man with the burden on his back says, "Oh, I just can't ask you to carry that too." And you say, how stupid can you get? Is this not what we're actually doing? We ask God to save us, and he does. And he says, "No, cast all your burdens on me." And we say, "Oh, we can't do that. We better hang on to these. I better have some of these. I wouldn't want to burden God with that little thing in my life." Let me ask you, what in your life is God not interested in? What exception clause did he make to casting all your care upon him? Do you know what the word all means? all your burdens on him, casting all your care upon him. This doesn't exclude anything. When you lose your car keys, or when you're in serious financial trouble, when you have to make a decision, when you have to work on your vehicle, when you have a problem at work, when you have a problem with your family, you list out the whole list. God said, cast it all on me. Absolutely. I'm very trustworthy. I've cared for you for a very long time, and I always do it perfectly. So begin casting all your care upon me. Now, we're done here. We have 2 verses. 1 Peter 5:7 tells us why we should do this. Why should we cast all of our care upon him? Because he cares. That's a pretty good reason, right? We often cast burdens on people who don't really care. Your guy at work unloading on you and you don't care. He says, cast all. Why? Because I care. Psalm 55 tells us why. What the outcome is going to be. What's the outcome going to be if you cast all your care? It says, he will sustain you. He never lets anybody down. When they cast those burdens on, he just doesn't treat them like nothing. He goes to work on them. Why would we not do this? Now here's the deal. The question is not, does God care for you? It's a given. The question is, will you live in the care of Jesus Christ? Yes. That's the question. Will you live in the care of Jesus Christ? Let's pray.